Action News investigates a Muslim village in the nearby foothills where some people involved are believed to have ties to militant groups.
Live, local, late breaking. This is ABC 30 Action News. From Central California's news leader, this is Action News at 6.
Good evening. An Action News investigation has uncovered some disturbing information about a Muslim village just east of Fresno.
Some of those involved with the village near Miramonte are members of groups headed by a man federal officials believe to be the leader of a well-established terrorist organization. Action News reporter Kevin Quinn joins us now with the results of his 2-month investigation. Kevin.
Warren and Graciela, our probe actually began in August. That's when a Fresno County Sheriff's deputy was murdered. We soon learned that the accused shooter lived for less than a month at a nearby Muslim village called Baladullah. Since then, we've learned much more. In August, deputies rushed to save the life of one of their own after he was shot in an ambush-style attack near the foothill community of Dunlap. Deputy Eric Tellen later died. He leaves behind a wife and 3 young children. Ramadan Abdullah is accused now of Deputy Tellen's murder and awaits trial for the crime. According to law enforcement, Abdullah had lived miles from the scene of the shooting in this Muslim village in Tulare County between Badger and Miramonte. Investigators say he lived there just 3 to 4 weeks prior to the shooting.
No interviews.
When Action News first went there, we were told there would be no on-camera interviews. Those we talked to refused to tell us what they know about Abdullah. They did say that the shooting affected everyone on the mountainside. But Abdullah isn't the first resident of that village to have trouble with the law. The U.S. Marshals Service arrested this man in March of this year for running guns between South Carolina and New York. He, too, had only lived at the village a few months. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms told deputy marshals that James Hobson was dangerous.
They passed the information off to us to be careful, this is who you're dealing with.
Hobson pleaded guilty to a charge of conspiracy and is now serving time in a federal prison. Authorities say, as far as they know, Hobson was the only village resident involved in this crime. While working on arresting Hobson, Hebert says officers, though, noticed armed guards patrolling this village. Neighbors say that wasn't an unusual sight.
Like, you know, there was a guard with a gun, you know, standing at the gate.
We're protecting this woman's identity because she's worried about retribution for what she's telling us.
Why would they possibly need a guard there in this community? There's no reason for that, especially a gun, toting a gun.
Another neighbor claims she used to hear gunfire coming from the village day and night.
Some of it sounds like target practice, and other is rapid fire. It makes you question whether or not they've got automatic weapons.
Sheriff's investigators say there is a shooting range on the property and even a small airstrip. All these concerns led us to again try to find out more about the village. When we went to ask questions, we were turned away at the gate.
Can y'all go outside the gate, please?
Outside, we were told to contact the group's Visalia attorney, who spoke on their behalf.
They were reluctant even for me to talk with you because of the fear that publicity will generate crazy people to do them harm.
Doug Hurt says his clients are peaceful people. He says the gunfire neighbors have heard is from hunting, but he admits there have been armed guards at the front gate from time to time.
And they have been threatened, their children have been threatened, their women have been threatened, and they live out there about 45 minutes away from any sheriff's responses if something happens to them.
Hurt says the village is called Baladullah and that it is home to the International Quranic Open University. According to this official statement from the university, it was founded by a Pakistani cleric by the name of Sheikh Mubarak Jilani.
You can reach us, you know, at Quranic Open University offices in upstate New York, or in Canada, or in Michigan, or in South Carolina.
Hurt says the university is simply a religious school teaching Islam, and as far as we know, it has not been identified as a terrorist group. But the U.S. State Department says its founder, Sheikh Jilani, is also the leader of a terrorist group known as Jamaat ul-Fuqra. Don't you think it's unusual that the gentleman who is the leader of the Quranic Open University, is also known to be the leader of this terrorist group.
I challenge your authority on that, sir. Who says who is known to be a leader of a terrorist group? They might read books written by him and that sort of thing. I've never met the man, and no one that I have talked to has ever met the man. And is there a connection? Absolutely not.
In September, there was a sign right out front of the village advertising the university. But since then, it's been taken down.
They are very concerned with the hysteria about Muslims and terrorists that's going on now, some of which the concerns are valid, that someone will see a sign like that and do something stupid to harm someone in that community.
However, Action News has found this website, which sells books written by Jilani. If you wanted to purchase them, the site tells you to send a check or money order in the name of Muslims of the Americas to an address in Miramonte, the same address as the local Muslim village of Baladullah. Fuqra is known to have several thousand members living communally throughout the United States in well-protected, secretive compounds located outside most city limits. According to the State Department, Jilani and his organization Fuqra are known to be responsible for attacks throughout the United States dating back 20 years. The Anti-Defamation League says they were specifically responsible for these incidents. In 1983, this Hindu hotel in Portland was firebombed. In '84, 3 people from India were murdered in Tacoma, Washington. That same year, someone firebombed this Hare Krishna temple in Denver. In 1990, Tucson, Arizona Muslim cleric Rashad Khalifa was murdered. And in '93, New York's World Trade Center was attacked for the first time. The Anti-Defamation League has compiled a special report on Fuqra, which they call the Holy Warriors of Terrorism.
They basically see anyone who doesn't have the same beliefs as them as the enemy.
According to the State Department's Patterns of Global Terrorism 1999 report, Fuqra is an Islamic sect that seeks to purify Islam through violence. In this training tape, Fuqra's founder, Sheikh Jilani, talked about training its youth.
Ordinary youth is turned into, a way like tigers. And they have gone back with their people and they're training them in the same, self-defense and guerrilla warfare.
Fuqra is a very dangerous group.
Susan Fenger is one of few experts on Fuqra. As Colorado's former chief criminal investigator, she helped convict Fuqra members there in 1993. Fenger also linked Fuqra to the items found in this Colorado Springs storage locker in 1989. More than 40 pounds of explosives were discovered, including pipe bombs, hand grenades, remote-control detonators, and military training manuals. Fenger is now writing a training guide to help law enforcement locate and identify Fuqra activity. And many local law enforcement agencies are turning to her for help in determining if groups in their areas are associated with Fuqra, even Fresno County.
You can confirm that the Fresno County District Attorney's Office called you to talk specifically about Fuqra.
I did get a call from Fresno, and that's about all I can say.
The district attorney's office, in fact, confirms that they have consulted with Fenger as they looked at this Muslim village during their investigation into Deputy Tellen's murder. Authorities, though, say they won't comment on camera about this part of their investigation. They fear that it could jeopardize the prosecution of Ramadan Abdullah, the man accused of killing Deputy Tellen. And Action News has discovered other evidence that suggests more ties between some at this village, Sheikh Jilani, and the terrorist group Fuqra. Both the ATF and the U.S. Marshal Service say James Hobson, the village resident arrested in March, has known connections to Fuqra.
Obviously, they were advising me to use caution because of his ties to this organization.
What's more, several people associated with Baladullah have been identified as officials within the Muslims of the Americas organization. According to an official statement from the Muslims of the Americas, they are an anti-Jewish group dedicated to bringing Westerners into the fold of Islam. It's another organization founded by Sheikh Jilani, although it does not appear on any list of known terrorist groups.
So there's not an affiliation as a group. Yes, some of the folks that live there are Connected mean they know what Muslims of America is. There is not an official connection as an entity.
According to these documents from the Nevada Secretary of State, the Muslims of the Americas incorporated in Las Vegas, but 3 of their board members are listed with addresses in Miramonte, the same address as the Muslim village of Baladullah. And a woman named Khadisha Ghafoor is listed as a secretary with Muslims of the Americas. According to the Fresno Unified School District, she is involved in the village through a charter school operating there. These charter school documents for the Gateway Academy indicate that Ghafoor is a known board member. Despite this evidence, the attorney for the Muslim village of Baladullah denies that anyone here has any formal connection with the Muslims of the Americas.
And I don't believe there's ever been any proof of anything. And for you to make that leap is just ridiculous.
Hurt says many village residents moved here from inner cities to escape violence and other big city threats. He says his clients have fully cooperated with all investigators. And Hurt insists they are not affiliated with any terrorist group, that they are a peaceful people trying to enjoy their privacy and their close-knit community.
And I think the news media is stirring the American public into an hysterical reaction to the current circumstances, which I believe is unhealthy, and I think it's dangerous. And I am concerned that if you put on some story accusing these folks of being terrorists, that somebody will take action into their own hands.
Now, on a side note, Khadisha Ghafoor, who we've discovered is a secretary with Muslims of the Americas, is telling people she actually met a few weeks ago with President George W. Bush. She claims she represented Muslims during a national gathering designed for Americans to foster a better understanding of one another.
That's very interesting. Phil, Kevin, have you been able to confirm whether this woman did meet with President Bush?
We have, in fact, placed those calls to the White House. They, at this point, have been unable to confirm that this meeting actually took place.
About Baladullah, we know it's located on the old Synanon site, but how many people are up at the village, and where do they all come from, Kevin?
Well, it depends really who you talk to, Warren. According to sheriff's investigators, we're talking 300 to 400 people out there. According to the group's attorney, less than 100. Again, these people are Muslim-born, American-born Muslims, rather, mostly from back east. They heard about the complex through word of mouth and just decided they wanted to come out here for a better quality of life.
All right, Kevin Quinn, thank you very much. Fascinating report. And this Action News investigation continues tonight at 11. We'll tell you how your tax dollars are funding the school inside the Muslim village.
No, it's a public school. There are Muslim children who go here, but it's not a Muslim school, no.
Tonight, we get a rare look inside the school. We'll explain why the Fresno Unified School District has concerns about their finances and why they were surprised to learn the charter school is operating campuses that the school district didn't even know existed. That's tonight on Action News, live at 11.
Well, there's more ahead on Action News at 6.
We're at a potential link between a charter school operating in the foothills of Fresno and a man believed to be the founder of a terrorist organization.
It's a school operating inside a Muslim village, and it's funded by your tax dollars. But legislators and top educators worry that the money isn't being spent properly.
Action News reporter Kevin Quinn here now to explain that story to us. Kevin?
Well, Warren and Graciela, our investigation led the Fresno Unified School District to make its first ever trip to the Muslim village called Baladullah. They wanted answers to the same questions we had. Is religion taught in this public school? Are tax dollars, thousands of them, it receives each year being spent properly? And are the children safe in this environment? This Muslim village has been the focus of an Action News investigation for the past 2 months. We found possible ties here to a man identified by federal law enforcement agencies as a terrorist. And now we've located a charter school operating here as well.
We moved the decimal point in the divisor. How many times to the right?
This school teaches students from kindergarten through high school. With its computer lab, crayons, scissors, and stacks of books, it looks just like any other school. But when Action News first contacted the attorney for the Muslim village, he told us the students are also learning about another book, the Quran, the Islamic holy scripture. Doug Hurt later denied ever saying that Islam was taught at this school.
And I was very specific that that was not something I was an expert in, and that when I checked, I got back with you and gave you the accurate information.
We spent weeks trying to convince school officials and their attorney to let us come inside the school to see for ourselves what is taught there. We were only granted access after the Fresno Unified School District told administrators that by law we must be allowed into the school. Fresno Unified says they found no evidence that the school was teaching Islam as a religion. And school administrators say students pray outside of their classroom time. They know that teaching religion or praying is illegal in a public school.
Is this a Muslim school?
No, it's a public school. There are Muslim children who go here, but it's not a Muslim school, no.
Gateway Academy is one of over 400 charter schools operating in the state of California. Such campuses allow virtually anyone who gets approval to open a publicly funded school that offers specialized curriculums. This school is one of 12 campuses being operated by the Gateway Academy. It's chartered through the Fresno Unified School District. But Fresno Unified tells us they didn't know there was teaching going on here last year. And what's more, they say they weren't aware that other campuses are now in operation. In fact, they say they've now found out that there are 3 campuses throughout the state they never even knew about because they were never notified by Gateway.
You know, naturally we would like to know, and it's a little frustrating not to know, but I think it was more of a it's 2 things that happened. It was a little bit of a communication breakdown and a little bit of their enthusiasm.
Fresno Unified didn't know Gateway was operating schools in Oakland, Pomona, and Sunnyvale. 9 of its 12 campuses, in fact, are outside of Fresno County. The district admits this makes oversight difficult.
You know, when geography is in your way, it's harder to do, you know, to pop in, to have, you know, the casual conversations about instruction or what their needs are or what our needs are, and so it makes it a little bit more formal.
The Muslim village of Baladullah lies inside Fresno Assemblyman Mike Briggs' 29th district. He says the laws pertaining to charter schools may need to be revised.
I think we may need to tweak the laws a little bit. I think maybe charter schools should be chartered in the county where they exist rather than being spread over multiple counties. It just unduly taxes the local school districts.
And I have a grave concern for this.
Fresno County Schools Superintendent Dr. Pete Mias hasn't studied Gateway Academy, but he says that in general, 20 to 25% of all charter schools are ripping off the state and spending money on things other than education.
That you have some of the charter schools that are operating with no accountability, either fiscally or programmatic.
When we initially tried to see the property, a man at the gate told us to leave the grounds. He then shut the front gate. Following our inquiry about public access, Fresno Unified made its trip to this school at the Muslim village.
And when we talked to them there, they said, yes, sometimes it's locked. And we said, well, it can't be anymore. As when school's in session, the gate has to be open.
The district is also conducting an in-depth compliance review. This is an annual review conducted for all charter schools. After its inspection, the district forced the school to move classes into this trailer out of fear that the previous facility was not safe for children. What's more, these financial documents obtained by Action News through use of the Freedom of Information Act show that Gateway Academy is operating with a $1.3 million deficit for this past fiscal year.
No, any kind of business, you have to get a start. And you know, every school that I know operates in debt.
Fresno Unified says the charter school received $1.15 million in revenue for its 246 students. But next year, Gateway Academy expects to teach 1,200 students and should get $5.6 million of your tax money to do so. Gateway Academy is Fresno Unified's only charter school operating now in a budget deficit. And the district wants to make sure the funds are spent wisely.
Because in the end, you know, it's taxpayer dollars, and we want to make sure we're responsible and make sure they're responsible.
When we come back, we'll show you the connection between the school, one of its administrators, and Sheikh Mubarak Jilani.
And we have prepared them to defend themselves and give them highly, you know, specialized training and guerrilla warfare.
The U.S. State Department believes Jilani is the head of a known terrorist group that has launched attacks on American soil for the past 20 years. Coming up, how he could have a connection to Baladullah Village and its charter school just east of Fresno.
If the big band era is history,
you get a lot more than you pay for at Sizzler.
Our special investigative series continues now.
An Action News probe of a charter school operating inside a Muslim village east of Fresno has uncovered what appears to be a connection between that school and a known terrorist. Reporter Kevin Quinn continues our special report.
The Fresno Unified School District says Gateway Academy board member Khadijah Ghaffur is the school superintendent for the charter school's 12 campuses. Ghaffur is also listed on these Nevada Secretary of State documents as a secretary in the group Muslims of the Americas, founded by this man, Sheikh Mubarak Jilani. According to the U.S. State Department, Jilani also is the head of a terrorist organization called Jamaat ul-Fuqra. This is part of a training video where Jilani talks about training youth in self-defense and guerrilla warfare.
We have opened our doors for Muslims all over the world. It doesn't matter if you do not belong to Jamaat or the group which is called Muslims of America. It does not matter.
We don't know if Jilani and Ghaffur ever have met. Ghaffur didn't return our repeated calls for comment. We do know that Muslims of the Americas is not on any list of known terrorist groups. The attorney for Gateway Academy and Baladullah denies that anyone associated with this school has any ties to terrorism.
There's no evidence of anyone being connected to a terrorist group. And these are wonderful, decent, hardworking American citizens who are now under attack because they are Muslims.
Those at the school wouldn't answer questions about Sheikh Jilani or the Muslims of the Americas. They would only talk about why they chose to open this school in the middle of this isolated village.
We're teaching our children because we want them to be doctors and lawyers and judges and, architects. We don't want them to be ditch diggers. We have intelligent children and we want their intelligence to show.
Administrators believe their children will suffer because of bigotry sparked by the September 11th attacks. They want us to make very clear their hope that they will not be made scapegoats because of crimes committed by others.
We're no different than any other people. We don't have two heads, we don't have horns and tails. We're human beings.
So in this time, Graciela and Warren, that's certainly a reminder that can't be repeated often enough.
That's very true. Kevin, back to these charter schools, can they really operate multiple campuses like this?
In fact, not anymore, Warren. California law has changed since Gateway Academy was chartered. It no longer allows more than one campus to operate under a single charter, and to make oversight easier now, lawmakers like Mike Briggs and Sarah Reyes are now looking at further changes to limit charters to the school district where the school is in operation.
And Kevin, what does Baladullah mean?
Baladullah, this is a name the folks up there tell us it means city of God or God's kingdom. Obviously, this referring to the area they believe they've moved to escape some of the bigger cities, more violent crime, drugs, and the like.
Kevin Quinn, fascinating reports. I'm sure we'll be hearing more this week on Baladullah, California.
You bet.
Thank you, Kevin.
If you missed any part of this investigative series, you can find all 3 reports on our website. Just log on to abc30.com, click on Baladullah, California, then on the video button. Again, our website, abc30.com.
And we could get a late week warm-up, then maybe rain this weekend. Angelo's up next with your exclusive AccuWeather forecast.
And later, a mule train in southeast Fresno.